Hello, friends. Welcome to NCCJ's virtual Citation Award event. I'm Ivan Canada, NCCJ's Executive Director.
And I'm George Johnson, NCCJ's Board Chair. Good evening to you all. It's an honor to welcome you to NCCJ's 54th Annual Citation Award Dinner. First, to address the elephant in this virtual room. Yes, it's strange to be greeting you online. But then again, we've all had lots of practice this year at connecting with each other through screens. I have faith that even though we're physically distanced right now, we remain socially connected.
Social connection is what NCCJ is all about. We work to create compassionate and just communities free of bias, bigotry, and racism. NCCJ is short for the National Conference for Community and Justice. We were founded in the 1920s as a national organization focused on promoting interfaith harmony. Back then, our name stood for the National Conference of Christians and Jews. And today, we're a local, triad-based nonprofit. For more than 80 years, we've been bringing people together to celebrate our differences and to find common ground. So it is fitting that we are here to honor Mary Humphrey Kendrick and the Reverend Dr. Frank K. Thomas this evening. They've both dedicated their careers to building bridges of respect and compassion between different groups of people. In addition to his ministerial and community organizing work, Frank served in the Army for more than 25 years. And on this Veterans Day, we are especially proud and grateful for all those who have served and are serving. Thank you. In a few minutes, you'll hear a lot more about Mary and Frank. You'll also hear more about what NCCJ does for our community, and you'll hear from some of the young leaders we work with.
I'm proud to lead NCCJ's volunteer board of 38 people. We hail from all walks of life. We are Black, white, Latinx, and Asian. We are young and old, gay and straight, Jewish and Christian, liberal and conservative. Many of us have children who attended NCCJ's flagship youth program, Anytown. And a few of us are ourselves graduates of Anytown. As you can see, together we represent many different parts of our triad community. At NCCJ, we believe that our differences are our source of strength. Our differences of experience, opinion, and outlook mean that together we can bring more ideas to the table.
That NCCJ is reflective of our community and responsive to your needs. Speaking of being responsive, I don't need to tell you that 2020 has been an exercise in flexibility and reinvention. As soon as we make a plan, something else changes, and suddenly we've got to make a new plan. My team and I experienced this so many times since March that pivot has become our word of the year. It started as a joke, but at this point is simply the new normal. I'm sure you can relate. All jokes aside, this moment in time has meant changing the way NCCJ does our work. NCCJ works with people of all ages. We are especially focused on our work with young people. Today's students are growing up in the most diverse generation ever, and NCCJ works with young people to nurture their leadership skills and equip them with the knowledge and tools that they need to navigate diverse classrooms and boardrooms to be successful in school and throughout their lives. You see, we've always done our work in person. We're used to reaching young people where they are, at school, through their houses of worship, at camp during summer vacation. After the stay-at-home orders were announced in the spring, we knew we had to quickly figure out a way to keep reaching these students. Since March, we've been hard at work adapting our programs for virtual delivery so that we can connect with students no matter where they are. And then this summer, as the protests began happening across the country, requests for programs skyrocketed. NCCJ has never been busier. Right now, the demand for our work may be greater than ever before. And that's saying a lot, because we've been doing this work for more than 80 years. But something has shifted this year. The conversations we've been having for so long about race relations and equality and justice have become more intense, more urgent. Maybe it's our polarized political climate. Maybe it's the historic, devastating pandemic that we're also living through right now. It feels like we're experiencing an anti-racism awakening. In boardrooms and living rooms across the community, in the streets, on social media, and in all sides of our town, we're having intense conversations about race, about justice, about equality. It feels like there's more at stake now than ever before. I suggest it's partly because more of us than ever are paying attention and having these conversations. Folks, if you are new to these conversations, know that you are not alone, and know that you have resources to help you. At NCCJ, we say that our mission is to fight bias, bigotry, and racism in all their forms. It's true, but of course, we don't fight with fists. We fight with conversations. We fight by creating opportunities for mutual understanding and genuine human connection. When it comes to fighting bias, bigotry, and racism in our schools and other organizations, NCCJ is here to share our resources and our expertise. We're here for students and educators. We're here for you. And we're in for the long haul. But we cannot do this work without your support. Everything we do is possible because of the support from people like you. NCCJ is not a government-funded organization. We rely on funding from people, foundations, companies who believe in our mission and invest in our work. If what you see and hear this evening makes you feel inspired or encouraged, please consider making a gift to support NCCJ's work. It's easy. Just click the Donate Now button on this page below the video window to give what you can. Every gift in any amount makes a difference.
I know many of you have gathered with others in your COVID bubble to watch our program this evening, and some of you are enjoying from one of our fine locally owned restaurants. They've stepped up to the plate, and yes, the pun was intended, to make sure that even though we're gathered virtually this year, we can still share a good meal together as neighbors. Thank you for joining us. I hope you'll stick around because we have more to share with you. You'll hear from our event co-chairs, Denny Kelly and Lou Bouvier of Greensboro, and Jim Morgan of High Point. You'll hear from some of the young people NCCJ has worked with this year about what they are doing to make a difference. And finally, you'll hear about our extraordinary honorees and what they have been doing over the years in order to make our community a better place for all of us, not just some of us. But first, let's hear a few words from Alan Shiraus, Senior Minister with First Baptist Church of Greensboro.
God's peace to you, friends, and greetings on behalf of First Baptist Church of Greensboro. It's an honor to be a part of this virtualized version of this important event, and I want to invite you to join me in a word of prayer as we ask God's blessing. God, whom we have come to know by many names and in many ways, by all names, and in all ways we know you to be a God of grace, an author of peace, a creator of unity, a giver of hope. And we pray, O God, that all these gifts we know in you might come to be in our lives, that we might be people of grace, not cheap grace without cost or demand, but grace that comes to find life by giving it, by offering it for something greater than ourselves. That we might be people of peace, not a negative peace that merely avoids tension and evades conflict, but the full and true peace that is founded on the justice that we know you want for all of your people. Then we might be people who are united, not in a surface unity that speaks of reconciliation while benefiting from inequity, but a deeper unity that rights wrongs, that repairs what is broken and returns what is lost, even as you, O God, reconcile us to yourself, so that we might be people of hope, not a false hope that ignores the suffering of our neighbors in favor of easy optimism, but a hope that moves beyond the cynical view of our world, that refuses to accept this world as it is, but instead, by your creative wonder, begins to imagine our world as it can yet be. We thank you, O God, for these we honor tonight who have embodied these aspects of your divine nature. And we thank you for the continued witness and leadership of the NCCJ that calls us to this work together in this place and time. Help us, O God, never to sell ourselves short, to be willing always to change and grow and risk for what is good and true, that the love we see in you, we might even come to see in ourselves. By the many names we call you, we pray together in one voice. Amen.
Thank you, Alan. Your beautiful prayer is a gift for our whole Triad community. Good evening. I'm Denny Kelly. My husband Lou and I consider it a privilege to be co-chairing this event in partnership with our friends Jim Morgan, who is himself a Citation Award winner in the past, and his wife Ann. Friends, it's been a tough year. I think all of us are struggling in one way or another. Terrible things are happening, but good things are happening too. It often feels like we're very divided, but in many ways we're growing closer because we all share so many of the same values and concerns. We miss our friends. We miss our family. We are deeply concerned about one another. There is nothing positive to say about this pandemic, but there is something to be said for the way we've responded as individuals. We have come together this year in solidarity to care for each other, to check on each other, to stand up for each other. Tonight, we're going to talk about what's happening right here in our community. We're going to talk about how each of us can channel our energy, our concern, our unique talents to help lift each other up and mentor and guide the young leaders as they find their voices. For example, when our schools suddenly closed 6 months ago, NCCJ's top priority became helping young people stay connected with each other while learning remotely. They created a virtual space that was safe for students to share their feelings and ideas. Wherever possible, NCCJ has adapted their existing youth programs for virtual delivery. Thanks to support from people like you and organizations like yours, they've also been able to invest time and other resources to create new programs to meet students' needs. Of course, one of the biggest needs this year was programming about race and racism. Our young people are very aware of the murder of George Floyd and the many other high-profile murders and acts of violence against Black people. They are also very aware of the protests happening this year, and in fact, some of them are participating in those protests. Just like you and me, our young people are impacted by the conversations about race that are dominating headlines and news feeds. But there's no opportunity for them to talk about these issues in school, especially not right now, when our teachers are working so hard just to keep up with basic schoolwork. This is where NCCJ comes in. In the same way that a student might take guitar lessons or ballet and then practice their music and dance skills, NCCJ gives young people the space and guidance they need to practice these difficult but necessary conversations and to do so respectfully.
I'm Jim Morgan. Ann and I are so honored to be co-chairing this wonderful event. Over the summer, NCCJ got to work developing and piloting a new program for teens. It's called STAR, S-T-A-R-R, which stands for Students Talking About Race and Racism, and that's exactly what it is. The students did 1 day of it online and 2 days in person, wearing masks and keeping a safe distance from each other. During one of these in-person days, they visited the International Civil Rights Center and Museum in downtown Greensboro to learn more about the role of our community played in the civil rights movement. STAR was a huge success. Going forward, NCJ is hoping to raise enough to make it part of their regular youth programming.
Thank you. Of course, we grown-ups also need some help talking about race in an informed and respectful way. So this summer, NCCJ partnered with the YMCA of Greensboro and the Partnership Project to offer the 846 series. The 846 series was named for the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that officer's knee was on George Floyd's neck. At its core is a 3-hour deep dive into systemic racism called the Groundwater Program, which was developed by the Racial Equity Institute. Over the past few months, the 846 series delivered this important program to more than 900 community and business leaders across the Triad. It gave us detailed information about systemic racism, including definitions and data and resources for deeper learning. I personally benefited from this program. I learned so much about how our systems create unequal outcomes for us based on things we can't control, like our skin color. And I learned that while it's not my fault, and I didn't create these systems, I have an important role to play in changing them for the better, so that future generations won't have to struggle with the issues we're facing today. I'm very grateful for the work NCCJ is doing. I'm also grateful to you, the people and organizations who have chosen to join me and Lou and Jim by investing in NCCJ's work. With that in mind, let's take a moment and recognize and thank our sponsors. The Citation Award Dinner is NCCJ's biggest fundraiser of the year. Without the support of our sponsors, we would be unable to continue to deliver a level of programming that allows us to effect real change in our work to build communities free of bias, bigotry, and racism. We are always grateful for our sponsors, but your support is especially important this year. NCCJ has seen a tremendous increase in demand for programming, coupled with a complete shift in the way we deliver that programming. Because of you, NCCJ has not only been able to adapt, but has been able to excel in these new circumstances. We're particularly thankful to our sponsors for their support in a year when we can't be together physically to enjoy each other's company and celebrate our amazing honorees. We're so grateful that you recognize the importance of this event and that you've chosen to spend your time with us tonight. Our sponsors truly are the unsung heroes that allow us to build a community that is a better place for all of us, not just some of us. On behalf of NCCJ's Board of Directors, staff, and program participants, thank you for your support and for all that each and every one of you do to help build inclusive and just communities.
These sponsors' generous support of NCCJ's mission and work illustrates how our community comes together to promote the values we all hold dear, values like fairness and respect. When we focus on our common ground and our shared values, there's no limit to what we can accomplish. NCCJ exists to help us do just that.
Although NCCJ is best known for our flagship program, Anytown, and our in-school programming, which has helped shape young leaders in the Triad for over 30 years, we offer a number of programs and workshops designed to equip educators, businesses, and community members with the knowledge and tools they need to create more inclusive spaces where everyone feels respected, accepted, and valued for who they are. Our head, heart, and hands approach uses experiential exercises and facilitated dialogue to guide participants through an introspective process, which helps develop self and social awareness on a number of topics, including identity, implicit bias, race and racism, and how to maintain civil discourse, even after an election. Please join us after tonight's program to learn more about our work and what NCCJ can do for you.
When I think about NCCJ's work in our community, the overarching message I hear is that when we listen to each other, we can find a way. That no matter how big the problems we're facing, as long as we can keep having conversations with the goal of better understanding each other, we can work it out. Speaking of working it out, it's my pleasure now to introduce you to two talented young adults, Anne Marie and Charles are Greensboro natives. Anne Claire trained as an opera singer at UNCG, and Charles attended NCCJ's Anytown program in high school. They have a message to share with us.
Hi, my name is Anne Claire Niver, and Charles Cleaver and I will be playing We Can Work It Out by the Beatles, as played by Stevie Wonder. Please enjoy. Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can't go on? While you see things your way, run the risk of knowing that our love may soon be gone. We can work it out. We can work it out. Think of what you're saying. You can get it wrong and still you think that it's alright. Think of what I'm saying. We can work it out and tell you it straight or say goodnight. We can work it out. We can work it out. Life is very short and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. I have always thought that it's a crime, so I will ask you once again. We can work it out. Hey, try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can't go on? While you see things your way, run the risk of knowing that our love may soon be gone. We can work it out. We can work it out. Think of what you're saying. You could get it wrong and still you think that it's alright. Think of what I'm saying. We can work it out and get it straight or say goodnight. We can work it out. We can work it out. Yeah. We can work it out.
Thank you for sharing your music with us. Well, that was beautiful. What a treat. Folks, our Triad community has a proud track record of bringing people of different perspectives together to work it out for the common good. Since the 1930s, NCCJ has played a key role in making that happen. But they aren't the only ones doing this work, far from it. Take personal action to build a more inclusive community may be a relatively new fight for some of us. But if we need a role model, there's a true pioneer of activism we can look forward to. Nettie Coad passed away 8 years ago. But for more than 30 years, her work gave us a blueprint for how to unite a community and stand up to bias and racism wherever they tried to divide us. Nettie was president of Old Ashburn Neighborhood Association, executive director of the Partnership Project, and founder of the Health Disparities Collaborative. Nettie was a true trailblazer She had a tremendous impact on our community. Her groundbreaking anti-racism work paved the way for conversations we're having right now.
I do this work because I believe in people, and I believe if we understand our rights as a people and what we can do collectively, I think we would all do better.
She had a way of drawing people in, and it is a gift. Everybody doesn't have that capability, but I like that about her, and she could meet them wherever they were, and before she finished, they were intrigued and wanted to learn more about her work.
I met Nettie Coad as a formal supervisor of my research health equity study. So usually supervisors don't say, "I love you." But Nettie Coad broke those barriers and didn't care about the political way of just being professional. She wanted to pull me into a more personable experience with her, and I was open to that.
Many people in the community around Nettie, the people who knew her and spent time with her, referred to her as Mama Nettie. I think that says it all. It took me a long time to figure out who actually was related to her, because she would bring people into her family, and in a very literal way. She would bring people into her home, she would feed them, she would incorporate them into her family. And you know, it wasn't about biology. It was about who Nettie was.
And she was a very giving person. There wasn't anything she wouldn't do for you. She was a true friend.
She invited me to her home. Her laugh was infectious. She, to some of our monthly Greensboro Health Disparities Collaborative meetings, we would have food at every meeting, and she would bring food from her kitchen. She brought rum cakes to the meetings, and those were delicious. And she would encourage everybody, get something to eat.
Her rum cakes were legendary.
Nettie loved her neighborhood, and she was very unique in the fact that she never left her neighborhood.
She was a tireless activist for bringing power back to her community.
And I met a lady who said she used to live in Old Ashboro neighborhood, but the crime had gotten so bad that she decided to move. But then, because of what Nettie did and others, she had help. The neighborhood had changed, and this lady was saying, I'm going to move back here because this is really where I feel my home is.
Nettie Coad was a tenacious, unrelenting community activist.
She was the executive director of the nonprofit called the Partnership Project. And the Partnership Project is an organization that hosts Undoing Racism trainings and racial equity trainings around Greensboro for various institutions and various other leaders.
Nettie was very persuasive. It was hard to say no to her. So when she started talking, people listened.
Nettie Coad was able to see differently what are the root causes of these problems that are faced in the Black and African American community. Was it the people's fault? Was it that the behaviors and the patterns were the problems, or were there some other underlying factors that led to those problems? And so Nettie's lens of understanding deeper levels of root causes is what allowed her to see that there can be a change.
She was talking about people coming to an understanding that racism is not about individual acts of meanness or bigots. It's about the structures and the systems and the way that they've been established that favor white people over everybody else. The new perspective would be seeing racism as an institutional issue, not a personal issue.
I think Nettie wanted to make sure everybody learned that lesson, because she often says when people know better, they will do better. And that was still the education piece she always promoted. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
She wanted to do something about it, and she knew that something could be done. She had had enough successful wins in the Old Ashboro neighborhood by working with the city on other projects that she realized we can be a part of making decisions and making a change for our own communities. And so she decided to get other people on board with it.
Nettie would be delighted that there is so much more engagement locally in the community of Greensboro, nationally, and that there seems to be an awakening a consciousness collectively of the need to really address racism on a systemic and structural level.
When you don't fully engage all of the people in your community, some of that talent is being missed. So that's what I think Nettie helped us to see.
She did a lot with building the careers of everybody, including me. And I'm so thankful for her. Yep.
If you didn't know Nettie's story until today, I hope you'll remember and share it. NCCJ will make the video available on YouTube for you to watch again and share with others. Speaking of people who've made a tremendous impact on our community, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and celebrate all our past Citation Award honorees. Since 1960, NCCJ has been recognizing local leaders with a Citation Award in recognition of the exceptional work to build bridges of respect and compassion in our community and make it a much better place for all us to call home.
In 54 years, NCCJ has presented the Brotherhood, Sisterhood, Citation Award to 72 people. This select group of trailblazers passionately lives out the mission and vision of NCCJ to build communities free of bias, bigotry, and racism. Over the years, we've celebrated heroes from all walks of life, different races and ethnicities, religions, gender identities, and sexual orientations. Our Citation Award honorees may all be different, but one thing they have in common is that they've spent their lives striving for equity, inclusion, and justice, working day in and day out to live values that NCCJ shares. Our community is a better place for having them. Thank you to all of our past honorees and our current honorees for your tireless efforts. And to all our future honorees, thank you for the work you're doing today to make our community a better place for all of us, not just some of us.
Of course, every one of those young honorees started out as a young person with a vision. So let's hear from some of our younger neighbors who've been working with NCCJ this year. These teams have a vision, and they are each taking the first step down their own paths of leadership.
Hi, I'm Sophie Carson, and I'm a junior at Northwest Guilford High School. I attended Anytown the summer of 2019. For the past 6 months, COVID-19 has thrown most of us into a place that we've never been before. It has brought anxiety, isolation, and fear into our lives in a way that we weren't ready for. What's helped me is being able to talk about what I'm going through with the people I've met at NCCJ. We meet with the ambassador group at least once a month. Ambassadors are students who have been through NCCJ programs like Anytown and STAR and are committed to sharing what we've learned with people in our circles. "2020 has brought us so many challenges and awakenings. First, this global pandemic that's still impacting us and our neighbors. Then, we were thrown into more uncertainty by the summer of protests following the death of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. It's been a year of struggle and isolation, but I know that right now, more than ever, students need to come together, talk with each other, and learn from each other. I talked to some of my friends from the Ambassador program about their experiences, and this is what they had to say.
As a young person, NCCJ makes me feel like my ideas matter. The first program that I attended back in spring was the Digital Tin Hangout. I didn't know anyone there, but I got to share my ideas and I felt cared for.
With NCCJ, I've been able to meet people like me. And by that I don't just mean people who are of diverse origins and sexual orientations, but also people who are open-minded and aren't afraid to show who they are.
Our ambassador group is set up to allow us to discover who we are and share that with one another without judgment.
It's very easy for people my age to lose themselves, but when they're around people that they feel comfortable with, they can easily express themselves. I know that with my NCCJ family, I can open up and relate to my fellow peers without feeling any sort of judgment.
Before I had a space like Anytown, where I could be myself as a trans person, my mental health was horrible. I suffered from depression, anxiety, depersonalization, and my grades in school were dropping. After I came to Anytown, I found my voice, made some of my closest friends, and my mental health improved exponentially. I've never been in a better place. That's partly because of the support that NCCJ gave me. I think it's pretty clear how important and how extremely significant it is to provide that to young people.
When young people feel like we can be ourselves and be at peace with who we are, we're powered by an incredible force. You've seen it in young leaders like Malala and Greta. It's the same force that starts movements, giving us the courage and the motivation that can shift communities.
Young people have a specific sense of social awareness in regards to issues of equality and justice. That unique mindset comes from growing up in times of societal shifts, and only we can bring that perspective to issues of societal change.
I think it's very important for teenagers to speak on social justice issues. We deserve a seat at the table.
We're at a crossroads. This feels like a unique moment in history, a moment where we can take the lessons learned by those who came before us and make our voices heard by those around us.
There's so many things tearing people apart right now, and even though it feels like the world is using its power to separate us, NCCJ is still here to bring us together. I may be feeling isolated, but I can always come to the ambassador meetings and feel like I'm at a place where I can be myself and voice my opinions openly.
Social justice isn't linear. It has its ups and downs, and history has taught us that. The civil rights movement, the waves of feminism, and more recently, the Black Lives Matter movement. We have the chance to build on that change and make things even better. And because of that, organizations like NCCJ are vital, especially right now.
Even though we're young, we're powerful. And as a community, we're strong and we matter. We have to build the world that we want to live in. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Historically, young people have been on the front lines of social movements. Because we're younger and often more ready to take risks, we've been tasked with the responsibility to be the voice of change we all want to see in our communities. My friends and I don't take this responsibility lightly. As the saying goes, we are the ones we've been waiting for. With NCCJ's support, we're each working to turn the things we care about into a reality. I care about living in a community free of bias, bigotry, and racism.
I care about equal education opportunities.
I care about equal representation for minorities.
I care about immigrant rights.
I care about equality of opportunity for all.
And I care about self-advocacy for the neurodivergent community.
And I care about providing access to food for everyone.
I care about the working class.
And I care about justice and equality for all.
Together, we're ready to roll up our sleeves and do the hard work of making our dreams a reality. But we can't do it without your support. Will you help us make a difference?
Amazing stories. I always come away inspired and humbled after conversations with young leaders like these Anytown and Star alumni. These young people we just heard from and others like them are our future. What we do now, we do for them, for our children, our grandchildren, and their children. The investments you and I make today are seeds we're planting that will keep blooming for them for many years. As a famous quote says, the true meaning of life is to plant a tree under whose shade you do not expect to sit. The time is now.
We have something important to say to you. It's something we wrote down before the election, knowing that it would still be true regardless of the outcome. If you want to know who bears the responsibility for making our community a better place to live and work, just take a look in the mirror.
Yes, of course it's true that leaders at the highest level of our government and institutions play a critical role in setting our policies and shaping the way we talk about these issues. But ultimately, it comes down to you, and it comes down to me.
It comes down to me.
And it comes down to me. It comes down to us because we each have a tremendous power to shape the world around us. We do this through the choices we make in every conversation, every interaction, every decision that we're faced with throughout the day.
That's why what NCCJ does is so powerful. The goal is to empower us as individuals. None of us are perfect. We're all learning as we go. We're doing the best we can. But each of us has unique talents and tools we can use to make a positive difference in the lives of our friends and neighbors.
Friends, you've heard a lot about NCCJ's work this evening. I think we can all agree that it's work that needs to be doing. Consider every tough decision we're grappling with right now as a community. Consider the conversations we need to be having to find effective solutions for the challenges we face. Now, consider what we need to know and how we have to behave to have these conversations effectively. That's what NCCJ does. That's the space they inhabit. NCCJ can help us with these important conversations respectively and effectively. But NCCJ is a team of 6, and the truth is they can't do it alone or by themselves. Folks, I told you a little bit about NCCJ as using their tools. It's my hope that you will also choose to use your talents and the tools at your disposal to advance this important work.
One of the most important ways you can help advance NCCJ's work is to fund it. Many of you watching this have already done so by sponsoring or buying tickets, and we thank you. But if you're watching as a guest and haven't made your own gift, or if you inspired to dig a little deeper, I'm asking you to do that now. Your gift will amplify NCCJ's work. For months now, we've been working to raise $300,000 through this virtual Citation Award event. That's because this event is NCCJ's biggest annual fundraiser. The money we're working to raise adds up to about 50% of what NCCJ needs to keep operating each year. These funds will make sure NCCJ has the resources they need to sustain and grow their work with students, educators, and community groups. Thanks to the generosity of our sponsors and to those of you who have made big gifts or bought tickets, I am happy to share that we have already raised more than $265,000 for NCCJ. But we still have a little further to go. We need your help to raise another $35,000 so we can close the gap and meet our goal.
Well, I see that the ticker is running, and we're up to 11,245. Uh-oh, it changed again. 13,000, and still running almost 14,000. That's terrific. Think about what NCCJ does in our community. Consider what you've heard about their work with students and educators to build more respectful learning environments for our young people. What's it worth to you? We're counting on your help to meet our goal and sustain this important work. Whether you give $5, $25, or $100, every gift in any amount makes a difference. To kickstart tonight's fundraising, a generous anonymous donor is offering a matching grant of $5,000 to double the impact of your gift.
Now let's hear from some of our neighbors about why they chose to support NCCJ.
I support NCCJ so that we have an inclusive community where all feel welcomed.
I give to NCCJ because I want to make a tangible investment in the future that I want to see.
I continue to give to NCCJ because of its lasting commitment against bias, bigotry, and racism.
I give to NCCJ because it gives to us, teaching all of us how to think and act in equitable, inclusive ways.
We give to NCCJ because they help spread the message.
The message of awareness to disparities and injustices, both within and outside of our community.
I support NCCJ so that other young people can have the Anytown experience that was so valuable for me.
My congregation and I support NCCJ because our youth are not just leaders for tomorrow, they are leaders right now. And NCCJ is all about developing strong leaders who are ready and willing to fight racism, bias, and bigotry.
I give to NCCJ because they are uniquely positioned to engage young people through their Anytown program
to fight racism, bigotry, and bias.
Nancy and I continue to give to NCCJ because it takes youth in our community and makes them absolutely terrific citizens of our community as well as the world.
I give to NCCJ because we are at a moment in history when having the conversations that NCCJ facilitates is more important than ever.
Thank you all for taking the time to consider our request and for making such generous gifts. If you haven't already made your gift, it's not too late. You can still make your gift online, by text, or by mailing a check to NCCJ. I also want to thank our Anytowners and the STAR alumni for sharing that wonderful presentation.
You've heard a lot about NCCJ and the mission and values we're celebrating this evening. Now it's time to see that mission in action as we turn our attention to honoring two people who have done so much to advance NCCJ's mission in our community. Our 2020 Citation Award honorees are Mary Humphrey Kendrick and Reverend Dr. Frank K. Thomas. Mary and Frank both exemplify the long tradition of hands-on, in the trenches, community building that made our Triad community a place we're so proud to call home. Hear what admirers have to say about Mary.
So Other Voices is a diversity leadership program, an initiative that we run at the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce.
You know, inequity and racism is nothing new, but I think that Mary has dedicated her life to making things better by not just talking about others, but including all the voices in the conversation.
Because of her advocacy for human dignity, she's been able to help transform boardrooms, public bodies, and civic life as a result.
She's got a unique skill set for making folks feel invited into a conversation where they're not blamed or shamed or for what they think, for what they experience, for what they believe right then.
She's going to cause you to think differently. And what it did for me is it put me on a lifelong journey beyond Other Voices to learn about people that are different than me. And it's really shaped me as a human being and also helped me be a better person in the profession that I've chosen, being in law enforcement.
Mary has the ability to pull people in, even before they know that they've been pulled in. She has a way of making a person feel comfortable, making them know that their voice is going to be heard.
Who of us wants to be just tolerated? You know, it made me think, you know, because you hear, of course, people say, you know, we have to create tolerance and that kind of thing. And she really challenges us to think about what those things mean.
She can bring white folks and black folks together talking about race in a way that keeps some of the anger, the volatility down, so that the conversation can be had. It could either be a conversation or it could be a volcano, and it's not. She just has a way of doing that.
What Mary's leadership does in Other Voices is that she privileges the idea of otherness, that we live in a reality within a community where there are many voices that are not heard, and we need to develop the capacity to be able to listen and hear those voices.
People always say that you should treat people the way you want to be treated, but Mary actually took it a step further and she said you should treat people the way they want to be treated, which means that you actually have to get to know that person to find out what's important to them and what they are craving in society, what they're possibly missing, so we can be more sensitive to everyone's needs.
She is one of those folk who will let you know that you can stand in two truths at one time. There might be a person who has a position that's not like hers, but she's not going to say, I don't agree with that position. She'll say, let me hear that position.
Mary helps us understand that it's really important to have a lot of voices in our heads. So when I come at issues of race and racism, I not only have in my head the voice of a dear friend who's a police officer, I have within my head someone who has lost a loved one or has experienced the police abuse of power.
Mary Kendrick is a bridge builder.
She has seen the value over the years of bringing people together to have these conversations, and to her credit, I think she realizes that you can't just fix it right away. You have to stay in it. It took us a long time to get here, and it's going to take a while to move out, but we've got to be moving the right direction.
There's so many divisions, especially right now, that have been so highlighted recently, and there's such a need right now for us to go out and talk to people that don't look like us, that don't think like us, are not in the same socioeconomic class as us. That's just so important right now, because I think that if we start to have these conversations, we can actually start to solve some of these problems.
This is the work that she chose to spend her life with, and it's benefited our community quite a bit. I'm glad she did it.
Any person that comes in contact with Mary Kendrick is changed by her.
Mary Kendrick is a game changer.
She's one of the coolest people I've met.
It is no exaggeration to say that Mary's work has transformed the way leaders communicate in Greensboro. Now, Mary has a few words to share with you about what this award means to her.
I want to say thank you. I am humbled. I am honored, proud, and appreciative of this recognition by NCCJ. I absolutely value the work they do in the community. I served as co-director and advisor in their Anytown program, and I have a scar to prove it. I was jumping rope with the young folks and fell into a rock wall, and the result is with me for life. I have to give thanks to my parents, both of whom were civically involved in the community where I grew up in Charlotte. My dad, I witnessed his involvement with Dr. Martin Luther King. I watched him do his civic work in the Black community and the community of Charlotte. My mother was a school teacher, and she did social justice work long before it was acceptable in the school system, and I saw the system's reaction to her work. I give thanks to my brother, Reverend Brad Humphrey, and his wife, Jeannie. They have been my confidant. My brother is my pastor, my friend. His two sons, John and Brad, my niece, Jessica. I thank them for the support they have given me during this journey. I also have to give thanks to my son, Don, and my lovely grandchildren, Donovan, Dallas, Davian, Diana, AJ, and Jasmine, who have given me the lens of what it's like to grow and develop in this culture in their era of time, different from when I grew up. I must thank my special friend, Dwight Whitted, who has been my sounding board, my idea generator, and confidant. Thanks to the Chamber. I thank the leadership, I thank the program committee, and I thank the 600 people that I have encountered in my 24 years of facilitating the Other Voices Circle. I have learned much from them, and the work does not get done alone. I also want to thank those who nominated me for this recognition. I believe that it's my purpose in life to be an advocate for human dignity. I've traveled the nation doing this work, but I always look forward to the Other Voices Circle. I've been honored and privileged to work in this community for 24 years. It's been a great place for carrying out my purpose in life. In the spirit of this award, I ask each of you to be an advocate for human dignity. I'd like to congratulate my fellow recipient, Reverend Dr. Frank K. Thomas. I thank you much for this recognition. Thank you.
Mary, that was inspiring. Congratulations on this well-deserved honor. Let's hear about our other honoree, Reverend Dr. Frank K. Thomas, and the incredible work he's done to strengthen our community.
He is a modern-day Joseph. He has a heart and a passion for serving others. He believes in justice and equality. So he uses his voice and his ministerial platform outside of the church building, within the community.
He's an influencer, but he also has a way of putting people at ease, no matter what the situation is.
He understands the nature of people. He understands how to address issues. He speaks with authority and with knowledge, and people pay attention.
When he goes after something or go to do something, he sticks to it. He has that stick-to-itiveness that enables him to overcome barriers, and when people say no, he continues to go forward till he gets what he wants.
It's going to be hard to explain a little bit because he's humble, but when you think of someone humble, you might think of someone soft-spoken, quiet. He's not soft-spoken and he's not quiet, but he's a humble man, which means it is never about him. It's always about the issue or others involved.
I have great admiration for Frank Thomas because he is a principled individual and always on standby to help wherever and whenever there is an important project.
He's fun to be around, and he brings a light to whatever organization he is working with.
Often I'll say, Frank, it's good to see you. And he's like, it's good to be seen and not viewed. So he always has something funny to say. He's always upbeat. I've never seen him talk down about anybody. I've never seen him frustrated. It's quite remarkable.
The end result for him is to do the right thing and to make a difference. So when you build relationships with people, starting with his church and then with outside of his church, with the High Point Ministers Conference, with the boards and committees that he served on, you look past where people came from because he's embedded in this community.
He was our campaign chair, and interestingly, how that came about was he was recruited very quickly at our annual meeting. When I first had the pleasure of meeting him, former campaign chairs for the United Way actually circled Frank and said, hey, Frank, you want to be campaign chair for 2018? I mean, talk about being put on the spot. His enthusiasm and his eternal optimism helped propel that campaign and made it a very successful campaign. In 2018, we raised $4,550,000.
He serves everything in our city and everything in our region. If the Guilford County school system wants some bonds, there is Frank chairing the committee. If the Chamber of Commerce wants to start an entrepreneurial program, along with City Council and High Point, there is Frank Thomas.
When we start looking at the climate that we're in the United States, where you see that we have a lot of conflict, people protesting, sometimes people don't understand us.
Emotions are high right now, and Frank, as passionate as he is still able to maintain a very, again, I use that calming word again, because that is just so important. But I have seen him throughout the community be that leader in trying to help promote peace.
And I've worked with him over the last 6 months on a lot of these issues. So he's a good listener. He interjects with his opinion when he needs to interject, but he's very respectful and values the opinions of other people.
I'm a, white, have many privileges that are of no result of me. It's a result of where I was born and who I was born to. And I don't understand all the conversations that are happening, but I feel safe talking to Frank about them. And he feels comfortable sharing his points of view with me. So I've learned a lot from him. I'm a better person because of that.
He's always been a leader in getting us to talk about it. In other words, we don't have to fight about it, but let's talk about it. Let's see what the issues are and see how we can resolve them.
He does not shy away from challenges. He is ready to be on the front line within every issue around racism, around inequality, around injustices in our city, in our communities, in our state.
I've been amazed to hear about the great work that Pastor Frank has been doing in our community. Past Citation Award honoree Doc Hearns told us that she sees Frank as a blessing to High Point. Now let's hear from him.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. As I think, I can't help but thank. I thank God for giving me the ability to do all that I do from day to day. I'm thankful for the approval of my wife, Mary, who allows me to do the work in the community. I'm thankful for the availability that Mount Zion Baptist Church allows me to share in the community. I'm especially thankful for the acknowledgement of NCCJ for thinking that honoring me was a good thing to do. I'm especially grateful because it falls tonight, this dinner, on Veterans Day. I served for 25 years in the United States Army, and that service I am so proud of. I'm thankful and I congratulate my fellow honoree, Mary, Humphrey, Kendrick. And I'm thankful for the acceptance of High Point. You see, I'm not a native High Pointer, I'm a transplant. But you have welcomed me with open arms, and for this, I am thankful. You see, our motto here at Mount Zion is a small church, a mega mission. While we may be a small congregation, our mission is great. God does not call us to grow the church, but He commands us to grow the kingdom of God. So it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. Our job is to affect and infect the community in which we serve. Don't just come to church, be the church. Change the entire world, one life at a time. I often tell people, I will not allow what I cannot do to hinder what I can do. You see, when you do things for recognition, you are often overlooked. But if you do things for the right reason, then you will be noticed. I'm thankful that NCCJ has noticed the work that I've done, but I don't do it for recognition. And I'm thankful, however, that they thought it not robbery to honor me this evening. May God bless you, and may we continue to do the work that He has called, commanded, and anointed us to do.
Mary and Frank, thank you for being such an inspiration to all of us and for dedicating yourselves to moving our community forward towards a more just and inclusive future. I just got a note that says we are at $29,530. Thank you so much. We got just a bit more to go, so please keep it coming. If you haven't donated yet, you still have time to make your guess, and we're going to report it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for your friendship and support. Before we close your laptops or turn off your TV, I have some parting words to share. I want you to remember that our community is strong. Time and time again, we have proven how strong we are. I know it often seems like we're more divided right now than we've ever been before, but when I think back to the times when it seemed our nation was impossibly divided, and each time our triad community has come in on the right side of history. That's because each time we came together to resist inequality, to champion fairness and inclusion. Our community was stronger than slavery. Remember, before the Civil War, we were an essential link to the Underground Railroad, helping untold numbers of brave men and women on their journey to freedom. We were stronger than segregation. Remember, the student-led sit-ins in Greensboro and High Point inspired a national movement in 1960. That's why I believe our community is stronger than the forces threatening to tear us apart. I believe we have what it takes to fix what's broken and strengthen what's working, so we can ensure that institutions like education, healthcare, and law enforcement are serving all of us, not just some of us. I believe this because time and again, we've proven that we are strongest when we listen to each other carefully and work together.
To help us keep listening to each other and working together, I encourage you all to have a look at the practices outlined in NCCJ's initiative called Open Minds, Respectful Voices. Just follow the link on your screen. After you've read it over, I hope you'll consider signing your name as a promise to yourself that you'll give those practices a shot. And I hope you'll consider signing up for one of NCCJ's upcoming virtual community programs to practice having these respectful conversations. Finally, if you'd like to stick around to say a word of congratulations to our honorees, or speak with someone from NCCJ to learn more about their programs and how you could get involved, head on over to our after-dinner Zoom reception. To join that reception, just click the purple button below the video player. In the famous words of the great broadcast journalist, Edward R. Murrow, himself a champion of honesty and integrity, who incidentally was born right here in Greensboro, good night,
and good luck.